Alan Jouban here to the program. Get ready to fight Brendan O'Reilly coming up here on UFC Fight Night 85. Man, going to be you had a rough outing last time with Albert. That was that was surprising for me, especially.
Yeah. Sorry, my son Keith.
No, it's all right. He's how old's your son?
3.
3? Oh, okay.
Yeah, just got out of the shower, so he's all pumped up. Be quiet, man. He's talking, okay?
He's all. Your wife's got him.
Yeah. Here, hold on. Let me give him a.
Yeah.
Here, your beanbag. Okay. Sorry about that, Frank.
No worries. No worries. Hey, family first. Always family first.
Yeah.
So coming out against Albert, I had you pick to win that fight. I just thought it was going to be you're going to be a better striker in that position, and then honestly, a true assessment, it kind of fell apart at about a minute 20 into the first round. It just started not going your way. I don't know if you were just off a little bit. He was throwing some stuff you weren't expecting to see. Like, what happened?
It's one of the. It's like a fight that was. It's still almost kind of foggy to me when I was in there, when I tried to break it down what was happening, because I think it was a little bit hesitant because I knew he had good power. I've seen in his previous fights he was able to finish fights pretty easily. I knew he had good power, and you can just tell the way he throws punches that when they connect, they do damage. So there's a little bit of hesitancy on my side due to his power, but something about me that night, I just didn't perform. When I broke it down with my coaches, I think I was just burnt out, to be honest. I had like 5 UFC fights within just over a year. So I've always been the type of person, if I'm healthy, I want to go. And there was a lot of stuff on my mind. And by this fight, by the time this fight came around, it was my son's birthday right after. I was going to Louisiana right after that to see my family, who I hadn't seen in a while. And just a lot of other things that were on my plate. I had done a big modeling job prior to the fight that kind of had my mind boggled. So not making excuses. Albert did a phenomenal job in capitalizing on a slow starter in myself, that fight. But they just had things in that fight that I felt like I was kind of burnt out and I wasn't focusing completely. And you know how it is, man, in training, like you sometimes have on days and off days, and I had a bit of an off day in the cage and I paid the price. But he's just a really good striker. I didn't really know. I felt like when I fought him, he was still kind of unknown, Albert Tumenov. He kind of like, nobody really knew who he was. He's a tough Russian guy, whatever. And then after I fought him, people kind of took notice. They were like, "Oh shit, this guy's for real." And then after he's I think he's in the rankings, or he's fighting top 15 guys. So he's a threat to everybody. But I had an off night that night.
You do realize you just used modeling as an excuse.
Can I? Is that legit? Is that legitimate?
It depends on what you were doing. If you were like, it was like 35 degrees outside and you're in the ocean in a bathing suit, then you kind of got an excuse. But if you're sitting inside some posh, restaurant or doing a watch ad, then no, you can't. Like,
right.
So what was the modeling job?
It was that Versace one. I did that Versace job. I did a job for them that should be, hopefully, I'm still not supposed to speak about it because they haven't announced it. But yeah, it's supposed to come out really soon, actually. So that was a huge job, man. It was a huge job for me. It was a little bit, and I'm not using it as an excuse, but it happened during my training camp going into this fight. And it brought along a lot more distractions than I was aware of. I've said this before, but Ronda Rousey said it in the past, man, that like being a champion, people all want to be the champion, but they don't realize how many things come with it. How many, not only is a bullseye on your back, but then there's so many media obligations and things like that. And I got a taste of it in that camp. In that camp, I booked this huge job, and I flew to New York, and I was doing all these things, and word kind of leaked out that I did this Versace job, and people started kind of wanting to do interviews and ask me about it, and it really kind of distracted me from just being that hungry guy that wants to go to the gym and do amazing things. I was thinking about everything else, the bigger picture all of a sudden, rather than just getting the job done that night.
Is modeling shape for your body different than fighting shape?
It's about the same. I mean, like now that I'm in the UFC, people hire me as a UFC fighter, of course. But I still kind of like I cut weight for if you're gonna book me for like a modeling job, I still try to lean out. You know what I mean? Because I walk around like 190. I fight at 170, so I do about the same thing. I kind of lean up for the modeling jobs because you can't fit in the clothes, man, if you're all muscular. So then I gotta lean up.
Yeah, that's one of my buddies is Yves Saint Laurent model. It's actually my buddy's son. He's one of the lead models for him, and he's never trained and never done anything before at all. And he's like, yeah, they got me like doing workouts and like diet pills and not diet pills, but diuretics, like to lean out before. I'm like, what the hell? Because I've never been, I'm not a guy that's going to model. It's just not my thing. Yeah. So it was interesting to see that like these guys really actually, like models actually look at it like a training camp. So now here comes my next question. You fought, it was about 14 or 15 months. You fought 5 times in the UFC. But then you have to train and lean out for every time you have a modeling job in the middle of that as well. So really, add the Versace job, that's 6 fights. If you have any other modeling jobs in there, all of a sudden now you're at 8 fights in 14 months. That's got to be a terrorizing on your body. That really has to be tearing your body down a little bit. And if you're walking around at 190 and fighting at 170, is there any talk about, I mean, it's going to be tough because your body would change. Is there talk about you going up to 85 at some point?
It's a good point. I understand where you're coming from. And it may have taken somewhat of a toll. Fortunately for me, I don't have a horrible cut. I know to the average fan, 190 to 170 seems like a lot. But to a lot of guys, 20 pounds, that's nothing, So for me, I do pretty well, genetically, my metabolism, I stay lean. Even if I tried, I probably couldn't even get above 190, 195 maybe.
Don't say that. Come hang out with me for a little bit.
Yeah. I go back home and I start eating some food in Louisiana. I get those extra couple of pounds.
Eat some local mocos, a couple of things of poi. All of a sudden, some Spanish salad. Next thing you know, you're, 250. Yeah. What the hell happened?
But I'm getting older. My metabolism's slowing down. But just genetically, I'm not one of those guys that carries 20, 30 pounds of water or whatever it is. I've always been a pretty lean guy. So I do, when I do these jobs, I do lean up. But really for me, it's just more of like a mental torture. It's like, all right, I'm going to eat salads for 2 weeks straight. And it sucks. But I'm not like killing my body so much. So it takes a little bit of a toll. But it's more just like, I don't want to eat salad. I just want to eat some good damn food. But you have to do it, So shit like that. I'm not really breaking down my body as much as I do when I cut weight for the fights.
Right. Okay. So now let's talk about Brendan. This one's an interesting matchup. You're 12-4. He's 6-1. As far as the new MMA world goes of the UFC, 5 or 6 years ago, that disparity in amount of fights would have been a huge difference. It doesn't really matter that much anymore. Like really, it's kind of, you guys are pretty close enough where it makes a very interesting matchup. How do you break Brendan down as a fighter?
Yeah, no, I agree, man. And then like a lot of these guys, so many of the guys in UFC these days come from the Ultimate Fighter, and I'm not sure if the Ultimate Fighter fights are put on your record. Mm-hmm. So if it's not, that could be another 3 or 4 or 5 fights that these guys had in the Ultimate Fighter house that wasn't put onto their professional record sometimes. So I'm not sure if it's the case with Brendan, but I like the matchup, man. To be honest, we contacted Joe Silver. I wanted to fight right away. My manager wanted me to take some time off after my last loss, and I wanted to jump on the March 5th card, the card that just happened with Conor McGregor. I wanted to fight local here in Vegas, and he said, "Look, the card's booked, but I need a welterweight in Brisbane." And he told me the name Brendan O'Reilly. I didn't recognize the name right away, but right away I confirmed. I said, "Look, let's do it, man. I just want to fight. I want to fight in March." And when I looked him up, man, I really like the matchup. I feel like Brendan is a tough guy, and he likes to. I feel like 90% of the time that he's in the cage fighting, 90% of that 15 minutes, he's on the cage. He's against the cage. He's one of those guys that he pressures you, makes you cross that black line, tries to put you back on the cage, and that's where he does a lot of his damage. I never want to be against the cage, but I feel like I'm able to do a lot of damage against the cage too. My elbows, my knees, my clinch game, my anti-wrestling, my cage defense is better than it's ever been. So I feel like him putting me against the cage might be him putting himself in deep waters. So I like the matchup, and honestly, coming off of that loss to Albert, all I want to do, I won't be happy, man. I really won't be happy, Frank, unless I put him away. Without a finish this fight, I'll be disappointed. I feel like a big finish is going to do exactly what I want, to get me right back to that momentum that I had. I feel like in the UFC, you lose one time and everybody's like, you suck, man, you suck. That's how it is in the fight game. I'm used to it.
Connor's one of the best trash talkers, one of the best fighters we have right now in the sport at any weight class, and just got beat, and now everyone's like, you should retire. Like, everybody's
off the train, all this stuff. We're used to it. It's a fight game, but it's like, it also shows that one loss and everybody thinks you suck, but one big win and everybody puts you right back on the hype train. So that's what I'm looking to do, man. I just want to go there, and I want people to think, when they think about that strike card, I want them to remember my fight.
Any other little tweaks you made in your training camp you can talk about? I know you made some tweaks that you got to keep under wraps because it's technique-wise and style-wise, but anything else that you can talk about in your training camp?
Just adjusting. I mean, on average, my training camp consisted of 2 of everything a week. 2 striking a week, 2 conditioning, 2 sparring, 2 wrestling. So I was getting better at all levels, but very slowly at everything when you distribute it so much. And I realized after the Albert fight, I was like, man, I was going up against a guy who wanted nothing to do with me on the ground. He wanted nothing to do with me anywhere other than striking. And what did I make my name from or my career from? It was from striking. I mean, I have 8 or 9 knockouts. The majority of my wins come from striking. And I was depriving my striking. Only twice a week. If I'm a striker and 90% of the time I'm in the cage, I'm striking, and I was only training striking twice a week, it's good to be building my weaknesses, but I was like, man, I need to really be polishing off my strengths. So I just made that adjustment. I went from 2 days a week striking to about 4 days a week striking, pulled back in a little bit other areas and distributed. I have a new strength and conditioning coach, this guy named Taylor Ramsdale at Chain Fitness, and he's taken, at 34 years of age, I thought I had already reached my athletic peak. But man, I'm telling you, man, I know you say you're in your 40s. You're like, oh yeah, young guy, 34. But I feel like I'm getting more athletic now in my mid 30s. Which when I hit 30, I thought, you know what, I've already peaked. But now I feel like I'm getting more and more levels to that athleticism. So I'm excited to show it.
There's a couple of studies I started reading actually. I retired 5 years ago, and then I started reading these studies now, and they're saying that in contact sports like this, these super hard, really, really tough sports that we're in, it's actually better to be older. You're actually better older. And right now, we have a lot of young champs, there's a lot of young guys out there, mid to late 20s are like a lot of the fighters, and they're like, they're all blown up thinking this is their prime, not realizing that actually 34, 35, 36, if you do everything correct early, that's your prime years. That's when you can start. Now, of course, it adjusts. Couture's prime years were obviously later. He was in his late 30s. Some guys a little bit sooner than, getting mid 30s. But yeah, for sure, you can go get way better and be in this sport for 5, 6 more years, no problem, easy at the top end of it.
I hope you're right, and it's something that I feel like with finding that right balance in recovery and the right trainer who's going to find your body type and do the right things, and I absolutely agree with you that you can continue to elevate. I remember Pat Miletich used to always say the same thing, man. Pat Miletich used to always say that a lot of guys peak in their early 30s. Yeah, man, I'm in agreement. I'm seeing results now.
Yeah, that's the old school style. That's the way that we used to train. The way that we used to go hard, spar hard every day, 2 hard practices every day. Saturday had half a practice, had one practice, but it was twice as long, and it was that. Yeah, guys then peaked in their early 30s because that was the end of it, man. We beat ourselves up. Now with the more science behind it, with guys like Robert Forrester and some other guys down in Santa Monica, who's got a ton of guys that he's training, they're learning wow, sometimes less is more recovery, more time off, and guys like you that got good genetics, all of a sudden, 36, 37 years old, what are you doing being a 5-time champ? We don't understand it. Well, it's because I took care of myself, and I got the right genetic code. It's just it all has to come together. So
I always rooted for the older fighters, man. I mean, when Anderson Silva when he was still in his prime 2-3 years ago, at whatever age that was, 38 or something, guys like that I really look up to. I would stand next to Machida, and Machida is probably maybe 2 or 3 years older than me, but he's got a freaking 6-pack, and he's still fighting very actively, and it motivates me to see the guys that are older than me in the sport still achieving the highest success.
All right, last question before we get out of here. I'm going to go back to modeling for a second. Is there anything that anybody, if they're driving around LA, they're going to see you up on any billboard or on any storefront anywhere?
Sure. I mean, Equinox right now.
That is you on Equinox.
Yeah, Equinox ad.
Karen Bryant put a photo out, this Alan Jouban, look-alike, and I was like, it kind of looks like him, but I'm looking at a weird angle. It kind of looks like him. I get it.
That dude ain't out. Yeah. No, yeah. Equinox. I did an Equinox ad late last year, and it's their commit to something ad, and it's a good picture of me. And I've been seeing it on billboards. Karen Bryant saw it on Hollywood Boulevard. It's kind of all over the place. And then there's an Italian clothing designer named Armando Schiavino did their spring campaign. And then a couple exciting things coming out real soon, man. I worked with Vogue magazine and At Large magazine, and as I mentioned, Versace. So
do you make
a lot
more
of
money
fun
from
things in
fighting
the
or
works.
more money from modeling?
What's that?
Where do you make most of your money from? Fighting or modeling?
Man, well, we'll see. We'll see. It's
close.
it's an exciting future. Hopefully, so
Okay,
we'll see.
let's go off of last year. You know your numbers from last year. Where did you make more money? You make more money fighting or more money modeling? 2015.
Last year fighting.
Okay.
Hopefully this year, maybe the opposite. Once these jobs are coming out. But last year I had a good year. You know, I only fought 3 times last year, but I had 2 bonuses, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't even remember. But yeah, you know, the bonuses and those kind of things, they really help out. So
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for
Thank you, man. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, Al. Thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. Have fun over there in where is it, Brisbane?
Thank you, man.
You guys got to go.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a beautiful spot, man. It said Brisbane's like the tourist spot, like on the coast.
Yeah.
So I was thrilled, dude. I was thrilled we weren't like in the middle of the concrete jungle or wherever. So
yeah, good for you. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be a good time. Have a great time out there, and I can't wait to see this fight. We'll talk again after you get back.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Thank you, Frank.
Take care.
All right, brother. Peace.